Okay, let's talk about the Empress Zoia, my Astral Temple patch. Basically, what you've got here is each horizontal row here represents a different sound on sound loop and recording looper. So, starting from left to right, top to bottom, you've got two 8-second loopers. By the way, this is mono in, mono out. Two 8-second loopers and a 16-second looper. Okay. The first button, all the buttons are the same from left to right for each particular loop. So this is the record button. This is the erase button. So when this is off, it will not continue that sound on sound loop. So you'll get a single loop out of that, which can be very useful if you want to just leave it on. And then what you've got here is this row. Again, each one is for a specific loop. This is going to be a mix control for the sound on sound loop. And then this is a mix control for the recording looper. The sound on sound loop is feeding the recording looper. Now, I really want this to be more or less just a how to use video, but I'll flip through the pages here once I describe this control page here. So from left to right again, you got record, erase. So if you turn that off, the loop will erase every time it repeats. Leave it on if you want the loop to continue as a typical sound on sound loop. This is the mix for the sound on sound loop. And if you look, I don't know if you can see this in the video, but if you do download this from patch storage, next to mix in the description of it, so I've got sound on sound 1, mix 8334, that's unity for it. I don't know how to make the knob show 0. So if you want it at unity, just make sure you set it to 8334. Each mix control will have that 8333, etc. So again, you've got your mix control for the sound on sound loop. You got your mix control for the looper, 8-second, 8-second, 16-second, and then down here you have a overall volume control. So if you want it to sit behind whatever you're playing, which is what I do, you'll find that it does sit nicely though. So you may have to use these mix controls, you may not, but they're there if you need them. Only other thing to note about the main controls here is the left foot switch is a tap tempo. And let's get into the other pages. So that's the first page. Second page is what I'm calling the main page. So you've got your ins and outs along with some of the controls. But again, you won't have to mess with any of this. I'm just showing this to you real quick. This is sound on sound loop number 1, and which, as you can see, also includes the automatically recording looper. This is the sound on sound 2. And this is sound on sound 3. And then at the end, the tap tempo is also controlled by the sequencer. So if you can make that baby crawl through real fast if you want, but typically I just do it as your usual tap tempo. And that's it. So let's do a little sound. So you can engage or disengage these particular sound on sound loops individually. So let's just say what I typically do here is I'll set up a like a bass note on the 16-second loop. Okay, so I don't want to input any more information into that anymore, so I'll turn the record head off. Now, because I have this turned on, the erase head, it will not erase, so this loop will now continue indefinitely. And again, that's this 16-second sound on sound loop will feed the looper, which is a little bit of what you're hearing. And what I do, since I use the trio, is I'll tap tempo it in, so as the loopers and the sequencer and the other things that are controlled by various LFOs continue to evolve what I put in there, it'll do it in time along with my whatever I've got going on in the background. So another thing you can do, so let's say this 16-second loop is enough for you in this particular instance. What you can do is turn on one of the 8-second loops, but turn off the erase head. So every time it goes through that 8-second loop, and instead of it doing this non-stop, it'll just cycle through one 8-second loop. So you can keep playing over it. Now, I'll turn that particular loop off. The other thing I like to do is maybe I'll do my treble loop here of the first one. I'll do like a mid-range loop with the second one, and then I'll leave the bass loop going. So here I'm going to record a mid-range, some mid-range notes. So we're in E minor. So again, I disengage the record head, but I leave the erase head engaged, or I guess if the light's on, it's disengaged, which means it won't erase the loop. So now I have, this is a little busier than I normally do it. You don't need to put a lot in there to create a nice pad underneath. So the first one finally cycled out, so let's do a treble. So what I'll typically do then is add a delay after and a reverb. And all of a sudden we're in magical, spacey, ambient land. Now the Zoia, so this particular patch at this point is running at about using 70% of the processor. So there is some room to maybe add in delay or reverb internally with the Zoia. The Zoia does have that stuff. You'd probably have to use the reverb light. But in my case, I don't need to do that because I've got my Volante and my Night Sky. But just that's a quick overview of the controls. And then, of course, when you're done, you can turn it off, obviously. It fades out. See, as long as you got a delay or a reverb afterwards, it's natural sounding enough. Or what I like to do is, let's just say you want it to end on just the upper register. You can just turn the erase off on the 16-second and the other 8-second loop, and just let that first 8-second loop cycle for a bit if you want it to kind of naturally fade out. So real easy to use. Again, all of this is just mix controls. You're mainly going to be using the tap tempo, the erase heads for when you either want to start or complete. So you can just leave it like that. It's not accepting any information until you turn one of these on. So you're really going to be using these 3 record heads quite often, and the tap tempo. And again, when you're done, you'll turn those 3 off. So very simple to use. And I don't want to go into, it's hard to make a Zoia video that isn't an hour long if you try and talk about all of the different connections and such, but it works pretty good. I really haven't touched this thing in probably a month, which is a good indication that it's done. So I'll be uploading this to patch storage shortly after uploading this video. I'll try and add a link to the patch storage in this video description, but if you go to patch storage, just look up at home on 2, you'll find all my patches. And I can't remember the last time I uploaded a patch, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. It's not a huge community. So there you go, Astral Temple. I would describe it as an ambient pad spacey background. You could probably find other ways to use it, but I think as for me, it's perfect. It just sits in that background, very similar to a microcosm mosaic effect. That was kind of my inspiration for it, trying to find a way to have maybe a more controllable microcosm mosaic effect. Because first off, I'm not the well, I'll get into that in a different video maybe, but I've owned 3 microcosms at this point. It's one of those ones that's really wonky to actually control. It's fun to wander up into space with those things, but this one's much more controllable. I can get it to fit in with other things I'm doing much more readily, and I would maybe argue it does that thing better than the microcosm, but decide for yourself. So there you go, Astral Temple.